Hi, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for joining us for Global InfoSec Roundtable. My name is Resham Ganglani. I'm CEO of Halodata Group. I'm very happy to be joined by my two partners and co-creators of this show. So welcome, Michael and Rohit. How are you guys doing today?
Great.
Thank you, Resham. It's great to see you.
Yep. I mean, a lot of people don't know me. That's fine, but maybe they would like to know more about you guys. So you want to introduce yourselves? Michael, you first, maybe?
Yeah, so I run the Renaissance cybersecurity distribution business based in Ireland, and our business is focusing on the island of Ireland and bringing the cybersecurity products and technologies to the marketplace to keep everybody in Ireland cyber secure and safe.
Yeah, and Rohit?
We are a system integration company based on focused on IT and security services, primarily a services-driven company, and trying to do the same thing as Michael.
Great. So I'm from Halodata Group. We're a similar cybersecurity distributor based out of Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia, and trying to make a business and grow a community like what you guys have done. So anyway, to start off, I think, to get the objectives, why we've decided to do this, I think Michael, myself, and Rohit have been having conversations. And, we talk about a lot of topics on a weekly basis as friends, but we realize that, from a data security standpoint, information security standpoint, we're very different, even though we're talking about the same topic based on our geographical regions and our markets and stuff like that. So we decided that, we should share this knowledge and share these discussions with our friends online. And we decided to start off with this show. So what a better way to start the show with a topic that's very close to all our hearts, because we're all in the channel, is about, how we've seen the changes or what has happened to the VAR and the migration or the transition from VAR to MSP and how the status has been going. Right. So I think, Michael, you've been doing that for a very long time. And Rohit, I call you the father of services. So, let's start and maybe we can have a bit more of discussion. And let's talk about the first thing, right? Yeah. First things first.
Well,
Michael,
I feel bad when you say a very long time, Rohit. I feel like this grey hair is old, but yeah, like the market. It's fascinating actually talking to you guys on a regular basis to find out that the world is quite different, and yet we're all looking to try to protect similar sort of environments. So we've seen quite a transition between your classic channel value-added reseller into an MSP, and that's probably been a European change for sure. And what we're seeing is the whole drive towards managed services, managed security services, and managed services generally. And it's around a change. I suppose it's a change in the business of the channel partners, but it's also a change in the demand of the customers. They need more managed services. They can't get the skill sets and they can't get the help.
So Michael, how many % of VARs do you think have converted over the last few years to MSPs?
It's an interesting one because it's a sort of, you don't just say, listen, on Friday I'm a VAR and on Monday I'm an MSP. Well, you may say that from a marketing point of view, but actually you transition your business. So I'd say, I would say 80-90% of the classic VARs have got an MSP focus, and that's where they're going, and that's the important part. They know where they're trying to go.
What about you, Rohit? Where do you see the VAR to MSP portion in India at the moment?
I think last 3-4 years it has been changing, and a lot of SIs or VARs have realized that if you're not into services, box selling is not going to happen for a very long time. So a lot of these VARs are adopting some kind of services portfolio, whether it's MSP or, not just the box pushing thing, and they're trying to build services. And it's an interesting thing. Some of the distributors also are trying in India to get into that kind of a business, and a couple of them are fairly large and have been successful as well. And,
so Rohit, Rohit, you just said that you are a services company, right? You're providing managed services in its entirety. So do you see that? There are MSPs who have not been VARs and just started MSP from day one? Or do you see, like what Michael seen, a transition from VAR to MSP?
Oh, there are a lot of companies which did not start like an MSP or even a services company, but they're turning into one now because the market demands that. And there has been change happening on the customer side as well, where they want more and more security roles and people to be outsourced.
Yeah.
Right.
MSPs or the system integrators or the VARs.
I think what we're seeing in Singapore is actually a much slower process. Singapore, Indonesia, not many VARs are converting into MSPs. There are MSPs that have sprouted out that are purely MSP play and started as a services company from day one. But the VARs are still out there selling licenses, selling a one-off professional services, not moving into the monthly business, not into, because I don't know, maybe we'll discuss later why we think that happened, but we'll see about, it's probably skill set, but we're seeing in Indonesia where the geography is much wider, more MSPs coming out compared to, say, Singapore or even Malaysia to that extent.
It's an interesting thing there, Resham, that you're mentioning there in terms of the products and the services, because I think the two mixes are coming together. We've seen the product part probably one of the great drivers is to be fair to Microsoft, if we want to be fair to Microsoft, but that's Microsoft and the 365 type embracing of 365 and the whole subscription model has driven this sort of consumption model. Changes, I guess, in terms of people's investment type of requirement, OpEx versus CapEx, has also changed that sort of investment cycle. But the other part, then, I think it's really important in terms of is the services aspect. There is a real deficit of capabilities and services that people can run in their own local environment in terms of just the skill sets that are available. The other thing is the environments are becoming more complex. So I think these things are driving the whole sort of the consumption-based services-led model, which is I guess it's similar in many respects to from your perspective, Resham and Rohit.
So do you think that the motivation behind the change is customer-led, or do you think it's profit-led? What do you guys think?
I think both. Frankly, I think customer and channel. Because the customers and we see it hugely at the moment, that the whole drive towards EDR and things like this, people want somebody else to look after the problem.
What do you think, Rohit?
I think customer is one, definitely. Two is there is a skill shortage, right? Especially in cyber, right? Which is driving this business as well. Because finding people, then retaining them, and then replacements, everything is a challenge for a customer. Right. Yeah. So once they have an MSP in play, it becomes much easier because it's a service. It's no longer, I bought a product, I need a team to run it.
And do you see this in the SMB space, or do you also see this in the enterprise space? Because we are only seeing this in the SMB space here.
I think the way we are structured is SMB. We have small businesses, mid-market is different, and then you have enterprise. Some of the enterprise are also moving in that direction now, because it becomes easier. Finding skill today is very, very difficult. Even in India, where we say there are a lot of people, right? Yeah. There also people are struggling to get cyber skills.
And you, Michael?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because really the environment has become more complex as well. To be fair, it's not just the environment is so complex now. You need somebody to help you. So for that reason, it's I think that's one of the things that's driving it. The skill sets availability, even in the enterprise space. Like if you look at Irish enterprises as an example, they're large organizations in an Irish context, but not necessarily global. But even if you have a global team or a large team, it's hard to keep those skill sets. There's a great demand for them, which is driving the cost, which just pushes a lot of people to say, listen, do you know what? I need to outsource this and pass responsibility.
And I think cloud, moving to the cloud and the pandemic, definitely has helped that. But do you think from a business standpoint, right? I've been speaking to a lot of MSPs and VARs who have moved to MSPs. And do you think that it's also about regular business? Because when you are doing the VAR business, it's feast or famine, right? Either you've got projects running or you've got nothing happening, right? And then you've got your cash flow issues, and you've got to do collection, and enterprise deployments takes very long. So where do you think it's a one, people like to move to MSP because of this as well?
Do you know what? I think predictability is something we'd all like, particularly in the current climate. We'd all love predictability, but predictability is nice in a business too. So you know that your services are being provided, and you know your costs are coming. You know your costs are even. You know this lumpy business that we would traditionally might have seen from a VAR perspective. That's not even really good for the customer either, because it's hard for them to try to manage that. So I think that there's a whole series of things happening here that are coming along. The other thing is, I would say, which is quite interesting as well, is if you go back a few years ago, Monday to Friday, you could be cyber secure. But actually, we're always on. We're 24/7. With COVID, people are working all sorts of hours as well. And that's probably going to be the way that people will start working, will continue to work. So you need 24/7 cover, and outsourcing and MSPing really gives a lot of that capability.
So good point, Michael. So we're talking. Don't you agree? Would you guys agree with me that now the relationship with the customer is very important, because no longer hit and run, right? It's no longer I sell you and you manage and then that's it. I come back for my renewal and that's it, But it's more a relationship thing, right? Rohit, you do a lot of services. Is it customer relationship becomes very crucial now?
Yeah, I mean, so we have two models. In the business, we have a model that most resources within the business have to be billable. So that automatically becomes a MSP kind of, in a way, model, right? And two is, when you give services or you're a services-oriented company, you have lesser number of customers and more business per customer, right? You're not looking at selling to 2,000 customers. You are happy with 50, 70, 100 customers, but your billing is much higher per customer.
And that's important, right? Because right now we're looking at the ability to find new customers is very limited in the pandemic, but it's easier to sell more solutions. And Michael, I've seen in the last 12 months, you've brought on a lot of new vendors to your MSP offering. And how has that happened? Do you think that has helped grow the business?
Yeah, and I think it's a really interesting one as well, because with pandemic, and we talk about pandemic, but really it's probably going to be the way we all live and operate going forward, because things will change, that's for sure, and they have changed. But with pandemic, people very often reduce numbers and then they increase numbers, so they've changed. And MSP allows you that flexibility, which is quite different as well, as opposed to the term license part. The relationship part is absolutely huge, Resham. From an Irish perspective, it's all about relationships. That's the way we sort of operate, but so that we make sure we deliver the services to people. But when you mention the variety and breadth and depth of technologies that we've onboarded in the last while, a lot of these technologies have been designed as MSP type technologies, and they enable people to actually be more secure and take out some of the traditional solutions. So yeah, it's really the other part is we see the vendors now are developing the latest stuff. They firstly develop it for MSP rather than the on-prem, the old traditional way. Whereas traditionally, if you go back 4 or 5 years, or maybe a little longer, people had the on-premise solution, which then got transitioned to MSP. It's now the other way around. So if you want to be with the latest protections, to some extent, you're being pushed into the MSP route.
Yeah, when we had a last conversation, Rohit, we discussed, right, that right now, as an MSP, you actually have with a relationship, we have actually a longer lock-in period because of the relationship, irrespective of the solution you're selling. You've talked about to me, personally, where you moved a DLP, a customer who had chose a different DLP solution, but told you to manage it, irrespective. So, what do you feel?
Yeah, it's still the same. I mean, we have customers. So what Michael was talking about, we just acquired a European customer, and he wants an on-prem solution, but he wants it to be hosted by us, cloud to be taken care by us, managed by us, supported by us, right? So there's one set of customers like that. Second set is where they buy a product, host it, and they say you manage it, irrespective
Michael,
of.
be careful, man. Rohit's coming after your markets now.
Well, I think that's the other thing, and it's quite interesting when we're looking at someone from Europe, Singapore, and India, whatever it is. It's a global marketplace as well, and the services are provided globally. So we all actually rely on each other. And the development may be done for a technology might be done in one area, the head office might be another area, the architect might be another area. So actually, and to Rohit's point there, the customer, the classic, one customer has on-prem and he's based in Europe, but can be managed offshore, fantastic, or another customer can be delivered in the cloud. But it's a global. We all need to work together to deliver the best value and security and protection for the customers.
And I think, yeah, Michael, when we talk about global and we talk about remote and stuff like that, I think what's driving this is also skill shortage, right? We've seen, like Rohit even saying, the land of where all the skilled people are supposedly right now in India, and he's seeing a skill shortage as well. What about the rest of us? But I definitely think, to the VARs that I've been talking to, who we talk about, hey, why don't you guys become an MSP? They're like, we don't have engineers. We're relying on distributors and vendors to do implementation. If I'm moving to MSP, I may not be able to get an engineer, or I may not have in Singapore, we have quotas for foreigners, right? Or in Indonesia, you can't find the right skill set because cloud is new. Everyone's, I've seen an ad, 12 years experience in cloud. Are you guys serious? 12 years experience? How are you going to find that? But definitely, in my opinion, I think skill's a big problem in the transition. What do you guys see?
I think absolutely. So a lot of the technologies that we've seen and on board in the last while actually allow people to deploy something that they used to have a lot of skills for in a much easier way, and they're designed around the MSP with the capability to have somebody in the back to do the heavy lifting as required. But basically, a lot of the technologies now are more automated. They're more designed to be easier to deploy. You even see that into privileged access management and the areas which would have been really big, heavy projects at some point in time.
But some may argue, right, that's the whole point of MSP, right? Because I have one skilled person supporting, like Rohit, you have people supporting 5, 6 customers, and it's one resource or 2 resources as a team. Don't you think that's the objective of the MSP, and it should be the motivation factor that you can have more some group of engineers managing many customers at a go, rather than companies recruitment or companies keeping in-house engineers?
So the benefit with an MSP is that if you're an MSP, you can create a bench, right?
Yeah.
A customer cannot create a bench for a technology, right? They will have 1 or 2 people for a particular platform or a technology at most. And with the number of technologies coming into play, it becomes very difficult to hire people for every technology or get a multi-skilled person who can manage a PAM, a DLP, a CASB, right? And then some customers expect that the DLP admin will also monitor the DLP, and you will also go through the logs and stuff like that. Right. So I think there is a little bit of a chaos in the market, and it is evolving right now. So people are looking at what is the easy way out. The easy way out is definitely the MSP.
I think so. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
No, sorry. Yeah, I was going to say there, the other challenge about that is, if you take your classic customer environment and somebody puts in XYZ DLP, it doesn't matter what the technology is, and they become sort of expert in that. Well, if that product doesn't evolve and move, well, they don't actually know what's next or whatever. So the advantage of an MSP is they get exposed to all of the latest technologies. They can then help the customer in a better way. So I think it's and I'm conscious of global climate change with the weather that we're having here, there, and everywhere, or whatever it may be. But this is the flood. I don't think there's a floodgate. I don't think you're going to stop this. I think this is all about managed service, delivering managed services to the customer and through the channel.
So Michael, Renaissance runs a workshop, right? VAR to MSP transition. I've seen this on your website. So how's the response been? Because you've been running it for years now. And how's the response been? And what are the common challenges, for the people listening on this call? What is the most common challenges that you hear from your VARs?
It's the classic mindset problem. It's how do they get to where they want to be, and so they have challenges. They've challenges in understanding and working out what it is they're going to look at. They've the challenge. They will certainly suffer a challenge in terms of the smoothing of the revenue, but it means that some of the lumpy stuff that they would have liked mightn't be there in the first place. But once that smooth transition takes place, and it is a sort of an evolving transition for them, as I mentioned earlier, once they get to that point, it's all good. But so it's probably the mindset. It's when to take the first step. But I mean, you know, that workshop is something that we've run for over a period of time. But we've seen that, you know, they've got there at this point. We don't have to go through the basic sort of saying, listen, you know, you have to think about it. Do you know what? The market has evolved to the point where they say, listen, if I'm not really doing it now, I'm really in trouble.
Right. And Rohit, if any advice, you know, you started an MSP, what's the journey been like? What would you recommend to someone who says, I'm starting an MSP tomorrow? How's it going to be?
You should.
Don't tell them, sorry?
You should.
You should.
Because, you know, the thing is, if you are just a VAR, right, you're talking about pricing. One VAR can have a better pricing than the other VAR. You're just selling a product, right? But when you're managing it for the customer, especially in cyber, it's trust-based business. Once the customer starts trusting you, your business expands like anything. Because then he wants to add more and more and more. And that is what has happened to us. Wherever we are, whether we are managing it on site or we are managing it remotely, every customer has been adding a little bit. Some have added a lot. Some have also multiplied in last couple of years. So it definitely, MSP is the way to go.
But what you know, in my markets, right, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, ASEAN in general, what we're seeing, you know, we have seen a slow change, okay, and we're not seeing many VARs become MSPs. And the other problem is, you know, you talk about value, right? Value being the service you provide. Now, when you go out on a tender document or an RFP, how does this value get defined? You know, what do you guys think? Because I've asked, I am a VAR who wants to become MSP asked me the same question, right? How do they, you know, you can bid for projects as a VAR, but if you talk about relationship coming from an MSP standpoint, then how do you quantify this into a tender bid or a project or RFP?
Yeah, I think you've got to, you know, value is you know, it's key to all of us. We're a value added distributor, and value is key to all of our businesses. We need to have value for ourselves. We need to have value for the vendors we work with. We need to have value for the partners we work with and the customers we work with. And making sure all that value is there is really important. But one of the things that we see usually with the MSP is it actually becomes quite a sticky business. And I mean sticky in that, you know, it's good for the customer. It's good for the VAR. You don't have to go engage in that sales cycle the next time around. So month 13, you don't have to go and resell the license. It's typically a renewal of whatever it is that you've been doing, like you have on a monthly or a quarterly basis. So you don't have to. So people can grow. They can shrink. So it offers value throughout everybody, which is really important. But it's just getting over that mindset part. But as you say, like if you're bidding an RFP, it's a tender. And there will be one-off pieces of business. That's for sure. But you'll find a lot of the services that will be delivered for them later on, maybe MSP type services. So you may go through the big project, but then deliver the MSP services and maintenance.
Even a big project could define services, right? But
yeah.
But then again, how do you differentiate services on a tender document between vendor and vendor B? You know, sometimes you take that in and you make a mistake because that vendor is not very good and you need to change your MSP. So have you seen situations like that, guys? Companies changing MSPs because of poor service?
Yeah. We've seen some of that, but yeah, we absolutely have seen some of that, and that's probably because somebody the MSP hasn't really embraced and driven. I think somebody like Rohit's business, where they have a lot of technology platforms and they can deliver really based on whatever the technology may be, because some technology might fall behind as well.
Yeah, and you know, sorry, go ahead, Rohit.
So I think I've seen some of the customers, specifically in cyber, switching the SOC MSPs, right? Because they were not happy with the service, or you know, they switched from A to B to C over a period of time. But the rest of it, I've hardly seen, you know, the switching happening. It's you know, because you manage tech A, tech B, like Michael said, tech C. It doesn't matter. All you're getting is a service delivered and managed, right? SOC is a different case because I think it's about costing. Rest of the stuff is still not over there.
And one of the things I've seen, right, as an MSP to create value is to don't sell by product, but sell by bundle or by service value, rather than or I'm selling you brand X, I'm selling you email security, I'm selling you DLP, I'm selling you mobile security, and put in the technologies that you think you can deliver at a suite or at a price. I think that is a big difference, right? Because companies in the past are used to buying vendor-based products, right, per brand basis. Now, I think if you want to move to an MSP, what you need to do is not provide a single solution, but a group of solution or full encompassing solution beyond the situation. That's what I'm looking at. What do you guys think?
Sorry, Rohit, go on.
I think.
Come on, guys.
You can't be fighting. Yeah, ultimately, no environment stays the same. What I would say is no operating environment, the customer environment doesn't stay the same. The services providers environment doesn't stay the same. And I think the MSP and the transition towards this, it's not just MSP, it's managed services, it's delivering that gives the flexibility, as I say, like working with Rohit again, the flexibility to actually change those services as required, because the one thing we've seen, and COVID has been a really interesting one, is if you go back 24 months, 18 months, 12 months, 6 months, and then look forward 12, 18, 24 months. Our environments are different. The way people work are different. The services they need are different. The protections they need are different. Everything is now outside the firewall when it used to be inside the firewall, as an example, remote working, stuff like that. So I think that the environments are different, but the flexibility with MSP is to go a direction, change, move a direction, forward, back, you consume as you need. So yeah, I think it's there for good.
So Michael, I got one last question for you, and then I got one more for Rohit, right? Because otherwise we'll talk for another 2 hours. So you have the value-added distributor right above you, right?
Yeah.
So how has MSP changed your role as a value-added distributor? Because MSP vendors can sell to MSPs direct. They just need a credit card. So how has that changed your role?
Yeah, the challenge very often for the MSP is actually working who is the right MSP vendor to work with, and that's really where our role is. And this is bringing that value, bringing them to the market, evangelizing those technologies and those solutions, advising them, making them aware. The other thing is, a vendor who's really, really good in North America may not be good in Europe, because they might not have the capabilities to handle Europe. So it's getting the right people for the marketplace, and those are sort of the values that we want to bring those values right throughout the whole channel, and also to make the customers ultimately aware, so that there is a marketplace for the MSP.
Right, great. And on that same topic, Rohit, today as an MSP provider, if someone gives you a multi-tenant system from the cloud to service your customers, would you choose the MSP first, or built for MSP kind of vendors over traditional vendors?
Of course, I mean, although it depends on what the customer is demanding, end of the day, product to product it may differ, technology to technology it may differ, but if it's a multi-tenant system, I think it'll be a priority.
Right. Okay, great. I think in the spirit of time and the spirit of the fact that we can talk for hours, I think we've had a great conversation today, and I'm sure we'll have a lot more coming out with a lot more different topics. And if any of our viewers and people who have good things or bad things to say about us, if bad things, please just send it to Michael, that's fine. But if you have good things or any kind of feedback, do drop us a note, or if you want to hear us talk about certain topics, do drop us a line, or on the LinkedIn or wherever you've seen this, and we'll try to discuss it. But definitely good to make this official, guys. We've seen in this conversation how different our markets are, and what are the motivations and challenges that we all face, and which we discuss normally anyway, but it's good to share this with everyone else. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks very much, guys. Cheers. Thank you.